Hello friends, today I want to share with you a lesson from my journey that will help you to move forward with confidence in the direction of your calling while lowering the risk of decisions made badly or regret from decisions not being made at all. In fact, this is not just a practical tool to clarify your mind to make better decisions, but it's a way of being that is most likely to result in a life you won't regret. That's quite a promise, right? So make sure you pay attention, and I promise you this will be time well spent. I suggest you don't just watch this, but try to apply it immediately. Take out your journal, start a new Google Doc. Let's write down some reflections on a specific situation you might be facing or about your journey in general. I want you to imagine 3 circles. Circle number 1 is the head, the rational, the logical. Circle number 2 is the heart, emotional, instinctive. Circle number 3 is the hands. This is the active, the doing part. The circles are joined together in a center like so. And I know these look less like circles and more like potatoes, but you get the point. Now, this is what makes up who we are and what we do. The heads. Some of us tend to be in our head most of the time, thinking, analyzing, rationalizing. Then we have the hearts. This is those of us who spend most of our time in the heart, feeling, worrying, sensing, and letting feelings take us wherever they may. And lastly, we have the hands, the movers, the shakers, the makers, the doers. Now, most of us are naturally predisposed to one of these circles. Some of us are notorious thinkers, overthinkers. Some are feelers. Some of us are notorious hustlers and doers. Unfortunately, there's a price to pay for staying in only one circle that comes naturally to you. Let's list all 3. The problem with staying in your head. Those of us who spend most of their time in their head, we run the risk of overthinking, over-rationalizing, analysis paralysis. We always need a good reason to do something. We are rationalists. We need to have reassurance. We need to have everything make sense before we move. And we're always about to move. We just need one more plan, one more course, one last resource. Everything needs to be in the right place before we start moving. But since the plan is never perfect and life is never tidy, sometimes we actually never end up moving at all. And all the while, we're confusing thinking about moving with real progress. To those who are stuck mostly in the head, the language of the heart might feel uncomfortable, irrational, even dangerous. To those of us stuck in our heads, moving without certainty feels like madness. But since the only things that are certain in life are death and taxes, those of us stuck in our heads may do very little moving. And that's something we may regret down the line. Now, those of us who spend most of their time in the heart, we're always feeling, we're always resonating, vibrating, we're getting a strong feel, a strong vibe, we're feeling our way through the world. We don't need a good reason or rationale to do something. If we feel it, we go with it. But when it no longer feels good, we stop. The right feeling is the supreme compass for those of us who live in the heart. No amount of reason is going to convince us to change course. And that's the bad news. Emotions alone cannot always lead us to a happy ending. In fact, those of us who live in the heart might do a lot of moving, a lot of doing because this or that idea felt right at the time, only to find ourselves tired and confused after the fuel of emotion burns out and we have no idea where we are now or where we were heading in the first place. Those of us living in the heart can burn out by constantly engaging our emotions in the ups and downs of our journey. We have the doers. They laugh at the thinkers. They laugh at the feelers. They think we're wasting our time thinking or sharing our feelings. To those of us who live with our hands alone, action is the answer. We're too busy to stop and consider the quote from the famous mathematician Blaise Pascal, who said, "All of humanity's problems stem from an inability to sit still in a room alone." Of course, those who can't sit still also might still do some good. But because they're always in action out there in the whirlwind of the world, they're rarely pausing to consult their intellect, their instinct, which is weakened by years or decades of neglect. They might also be surprised that all this work has not made them peaceful or happy. Everyone knows at least one doer in their life who's disillusioned or dismayed that the fruit of their doing is not fulfilling them as they thought it would. The trouble is they consider taking time to reflect, to dream, to wonder a waste of time, and so they rarely pause to connect with their conscience, their compass, their heart, because there's work to be done. Too busy. And the negative result of living with your hands only, without the head and without the heart, is a life of climbing the ladder higher than anyone else, only to realize that the ladder might be up against the wrong wall. Now, here's the recipe for the road ahead. No matter what your natural predisposition, the optimal mode is obviously a simultaneous combination of all 3 three circles, the head doing the thinking, the heart doing the feeling, and the hands doing the work dictated by our head and heart together. Here's some specific ideas, prompts, and questions. For those living mostly in the head, I want you to listen to Mike Tyson when he says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. No amount of perfect planning, can protect you from the roller coaster of reality. The best plan is just to start and get feedback from action in the real world, which is not always the same thing as what's going on in your head. I want you to connect with the pain and frustration, emotions. Remember those? All this thinking and nothing to show for it. Feel the frustration of all this thinking and nothing to show for it. Use it as fuel to act. I commend you for being rational, but ask yourself, are you happy? Spend some time writing about what you want, about your desires, your passions. Realize that no amount of reason can give you resilience to survive, to persist. You have to actually tap into your passion and your emotions. Realize that no amount of reason without movement will get you anywhere. Keep on sitting there and theorizing about your place in the world, and soon you might become extinct. When deciding, ask, what does my gut tell me? How do I feel about all the facts I have gathered? Write down your immediate impression. Anything past 3 seconds and it's your rational mind taking over again. When planning, ask, what small action or experiment am I willing to do for 7 days to let reality tell me if this works, instead of me trying to anticipate results or figure out everything in advance, which by the way is highly irrational. For those living mostly in the heart, I want you to create a daily practice of sitting down with your journal to get the feelings out on paper. You cannot sort what you can't see. I want you to get your feelings out of your heart and in front of your eyes so your head can sort through them. Handwrite. Don't type, especially if you type fast. I want you to go old school. Fountain pen. Piece of paper. This will slow you down. This will calm you down. I want you to list all of those times when going with your gut didn't turn out so well. What else was true that you didn't see because you were too busy feeling? Ask yourself, what is actually true? Not what do I feel, but what is actually objectively true? List facts, numbers, objective data, in addition to how you feel about the question, situation, person, problem, or possibility before you. Don't commit to anything or anyone on the spot. Always say you have to marinate on it. Get a good night's sleep, journal about it, go for some long walks, and then decide. Think about the end before you start anything. What does a happy ending actually look like? What is the cost? What is the payoff? What obstacles will you face? How will you deal with them? In short, I want you to measure twice before you start running around with scissors. Have a coffee with someone who cares about you, who is smart and less driven by impulses, instinct, or emotions, and reflect on their perspective. Now here's some advice for those living mostly with their hands. Imagine yourself on your deathbed. Make it vivid. What will you do with the money, the awards, the plaques with your name on big buildings? Surely you can't take it with you, so why do you care so much about them now? What if true, deep, lasting happiness is not a result of doing or having? What if you could bypass all the bullshit and just be happy right now? I want you to read biographies of folks who accomplished great things but were troubled later in life by their body of work crumbling, by their strength disappearing, by their families not talking to them. Reflect on this. Is this what you want? Is this the destination you're heading toward? How can you be productive and prolific, but with a deeper perspective, purpose, and inner peace? One that is dictated by reflecting on your path with head and heart. Ask yourself if your restless action could be an escape from something. You realize you cannot run from yourself, right? No matter how much you distract yourself with action, eventually the silence is gonna come, and if you cannot just be by yourself in a quiet moment, you better practice that before time runs out. Reflect on this quote. It's better to do small things with great love than great things with small love. Might you be happier going back to the roots of what inspired you to act in the first place instead of moving constantly to get bigger, faster results? I don't have time to stop for fuel because I gotta keep driving. Sounds ridiculous, right? Now, what is the inevitable result of this philosophy? If you don't stop, the reality of an empty, emotional, physical, mental tank is gonna do it for you. Notice how many of those who have gained the adoration of the world are often deeply disillusioned, distressed, depressed, and resentful of the fruits of their fame. What if you stop chasing the world's expectations and listen to the whisper of your inner world? What if you took stock of what is priceless in your life? What is beyond valuation? You may price your work, you may evaluate your company, but how much is your heart worth? Can I give you $1 trillion for it? What about your children? I'm gonna give you $1 trillion for each child. Deal? Reflect on this. Clayton Christensen once said, God is not an accountant. You are a spiritual creation in an earthly body, and your soul needs expression on this earth. Your soul doesn't do spreadsheets or numbers or even checks to charity. It wants you to get your hands dirty in the service of your heart and head. I want you to think about the happy ending. From this moment forward, I want you to be fully immersed with your journey, with your whole being, your head, your heart, and your hands, the 3 circles, taking time daily to stop for gas, to refuel the tanks, to walk around and inspect this vessel called you. Inspect the vessel from all angles, mind, body, and soul. Make sure it's fit for the journey ahead. For a life without regrets, you're gonna need all 3, the head, the heart, and the hands. This is my wish and prayer for you, that from this day forward, your hands may peacefully and prolifically carry out the work as dictated by your heart and planned by your mind. If you enjoyed this video, I think you should watch this one next. Peace.